My name is Darren Walsh, I'm 34 years old and I'm supposed to be dead right now. My phone buzzes on the passenger seat as I merge onto Highway 87. The text is from Mike, my mechanic. Get out of the car now. Do not go where you planned. I glance at it while doing 70. My first thought? Wrong number. My second thought? This guy's losing it. I keep driving. Then another text. Darren, your brakes were cut, call 911. My stomach drops. I laugh it off. Has to be a joke. But my hands are already shaking. I press the brake pedal gently just to check. It goes straight to the floor. Nothing. My heart explodes in my chest. The highway curves ahead. I pump the brakes. Nothing. I'm picking up speed down the hill. 80 now. The exit ramp is coming up and there's a red light at the bottom with cars stopped in every direction. I try the emergency brake. It clicks uselessly. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. My mind races through everyone who's been near my car this week. My ex-wife Vanessa. My brother Kyle. My former business partner Greg. The truck in front of me slows down and I swerve into the next lane. Horns blast. I'm doing 85. The exit is 50 yards away. I can't stop. I can't slow down. There are at least a dozen cars waiting at that light. If I take this exit, people die. If I stay on the highway, the next curve might send me into the concrete barrier at 90 miles an hour. Hey, if you're still with me, do me a favor and hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from because I need to know I'm not alone in this. Now let me take you back to where this nightmare actually started because the person who cut my brakes? I trusted them with everything. 3 months earlier, life was simple. I ran a small auto repair shop in Tempe, Arizona. Nothing fancy. Just me, Mike, and 2 other guys fixing transmissions and rotating tires. I'd been divorced from Vanessa for 2 years and we'd finally reached that zone where we could be in the same room without wanting to kill each other. We shared custody of our 7-year-old daughter Emma every other week. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. My brother Kyle lived 20 minutes away with his wife and their 2 kids. We'd barbecue on Sundays, watch football, complain about work. Normal stuff. Then my uncle Raymond died. He was my dad's brother, never married, no kids. Lived alone in a paid-off house in Scottsdale worth about $400,000. Everyone knew he had money saved up too. I'd helped him out over the years when his car broke down or he needed a ride to doctor's appointments. Kyle barely visited him. Too busy, he'd say. Uncle Raymond remembered that. The lawyer called me on a Tuesday. I was under a Honda Civic changing oil when my phone rang. Mr. Walsh, I'm calling about your uncle's estate. He's named you as the sole beneficiary. I almost dropped the oil pan. What about my brother? I asked. The lawyer cleared his throat. Your uncle was very specific. Everything goes to you. The house, his savings, his investments. It comes to roughly $670,000 total. I sat in my office after that call just staring at the wall. This was life-changing money. I could expand the shop. Set up Emma's college fund. Maybe even buy a bigger place. But I knew the second Kyle found out, everything would explode. We'd grown up poor. Our parents died when I was 19 and Kyle was 22. We'd fought over their tiny estate back then, barely anything worth fighting over, but we fought anyway. Money does something to people. It shows you who they really are. And Kyle? Kyle had always believed he deserved more just because he was older. I called him that night to tell him about the inheritance. Figured it was better coming from me than a lawyer. He didn't even let me finish explaining. Are you serious right now? His voice was cold. Raymond left you everything? I'm his nephew too, Darren. I tried to explain that I'd been the one taking care of Uncle Raymond, but Kyle cut me off. You manipulated a sick old man. That's what you did. You probably convinced him I didn't care. Then he said something that should have warned me. You're going to regret this. I promise you that. The inheritance cleared 6 weeks later. I paid off my business loan first, then set aside money for Emma. Vanessa called me 3 days after the funds hit my account. So I heard you came into some money, she said. Her voice had that edge to it. The one that used to make my skin crawl when we were married. Kyle told me. Must be nice. I should have known he'd run straight to her. They'd stayed friendly after the divorce. Too friendly. It's my uncle's money, Vanessa. It's got nothing to do with you. She laughed. Actually, it does. We were still married when Raymond died. My lawyer says I might have a claim. My blood went cold. Don't even think about it. She hung up without another word. 2 weeks later, my car started acting weird. Little things at first. The driver's side door wouldn't lock properly. I'd come out in the morning and find it slightly open even though I knew I'd locked it the night before. Then my tire pressure light kept coming on. Mike checked it twice, said everything looked fine. Maybe it's just a sensor issue, he told me. But I had this feeling. Like someone was messing with me. Kyle stopped answering my calls completely. I'd see him pull into our mom's gravesite when I was leaving. We'd make eye contact across the cemetery and he'd just stare at me with this look I'd never seen before. Pure hate. His wife texted me once. Please give Kyle what he deserves from Raymond's estate. This is tearing our family apart. I didn't respond. The money was mine legally. I didn't owe him anything. But that text stayed in my head. Give Kyle what he deserves. What did that mean exactly? Then Vanessa filed a petition with the court, claiming she had rights to part of the inheritance as my former spouse. Her lawyer argued that since Uncle Raymond died while we were still married, even though we were separated, she was entitled to half. My lawyer laughed it off, said it had no merit. But it meant court dates, legal fees, stress. Emma asked me why Mommy was mad at me again. I didn't know what to tell her. The night before I took my car in for an oil change, Kyle showed up at my shop. It was almost closing time. He walked in without saying hello and stood there in the bay, hands in his pockets. I need $15,000, Darren. Lauren's medical bills are piling up. The kids need braces. I'm drowning. I felt bad for him. I really did. Kyle, I can lend you some money, but... He cut me off. I don't want a loan. I want what's mine. What Raymond should have left me. His jaw was tight. You know what? Forget it. Just forget I asked. He turned and walked out. I called after him but he was already gone. That was the last time I saw my brother before the brakes failed. Because the next morning I drove to Mike's shop, got my oil changed and everything went straight to hell. Mike found the cut brake lines during the routine inspection. Clean cuts. Deliberate. Professional. And the security camera across the street? It had caught someone crouched by my car at 2 a.m. the night before. Someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Someone who wanted me dead. I sat in Mike's office shaking as he showed me the security footage on his laptop. The video was grainy but clear enough. A figure in a dark hoodie and gloves, kneeling by the driver's side front tire of my car at 2:47 a.m. They worked fast. Under 3 minutes. Then they stood up, looked around and walked off camera. Mike had already called the police. I almost didn't catch it, man, he said. His face was pale. If you'd driven home on those brakes, especially with that hill by your house, you'd be dead. No question. Detective Sarah Ortiz showed up 40 minutes later. She was sharp, mid-40s with tired eyes that had seen too much. She watched the footage 3 times. Do you recognize anything about this person? Height, build, the way they move. I stared at the screen. The person was average height, maybe 5'10". Could be a man or a woman. They moved with confidence though. Like they'd done this before. Could be my brother, I said quietly. Could be my ex-wife. Could be someone they hired. Detective Ortiz looked up at me. You're saying you have multiple people who might want you dead? I told her everything. The inheritance. Kyle's threats. Vanessa's lawsuit. The weird things happening with my car. She took notes, her expression never changing. Here's what we know. Brake line tampering is attempted murder. Whoever did this faces 25 years minimum. The problem is proving who it was. This footage doesn't show a face. You got any other evidence? Texts, emails, witnesses. I thought about Kyle's visit the night before. My brother came to see me. He was angry. He needed money. I said no. Detective Ortiz nodded. We'll bring him in for questioning. Your ex-wife too. In the meantime, you need to be careful. If they tried once, they might try again. The next 3 days were a blur. Police questioned Kyle for 6 hours. His alibi was weak. He said he was home asleep but Lauren, his wife, had been working the night shift at the hospital. No one could confirm where he'd actually been. They found searches on his home computer. How to cut brake lines. Untraceable ways to cause car accidents. Do cars have security cameras? Kyle's lawyer claimed it was research for a crime novel he was writing. Detective Ortiz didn't buy it. Then they brought in Vanessa. She had an alibi. She'd been at her sister's house in Phoenix that night, 40 miles away. Her sister confirmed it. But Detective Ortiz found something else. Text messages between Vanessa and Kyle from 2 weeks earlier. If something happened to Darren, Emma would come live with me full-time. And his assets would transfer differently. Kyle's response, something needs to happen. I'm tired of waiting. Vanessa, I didn't say that. I'm just thinking out loud. Kyle, I know what you meant. I sat in Detective Ortiz's office reading those texts and felt my world tilt. My ex-wife and my brother. talking about my death like it was a business transaction. Are you enjoying the story so far? Detective Ortiz asked, pulling me back to reality. I looked at her, confused. She shook her head. Sorry? Bad cop humor. Look, we have enough to arrest your brother on attempted murder charges. Your ex-wife is trickier. The texts are suspicious but not conclusive. She might have just been venting. I couldn't breathe. So what happens now? Detective Ortiz leaned back in her chair. Now we build a case. We check Kyle's financial records, his movements, see if he bought any tools recently. We also look into whether your ex-wife might have paid him. Conspiracy to commit murder is just as serious as pulling the trigger yourself. She paused. Darren, I need you to understand something. These people were close to you. They knew your routines, your schedule, where you park. That makes this personal. And personal cases? They get ugly. Kyle was arrested on a Thursday morning. I found out from Lauren, who called me sobbing. How could you do this to him? He's your brother. He didn't try to kill you, Darren. He wouldn't. I wanted to believe her. Part of me still did. But the evidence was stacking up. Police found a receipt from a hardware store. Kyle had purchased wire cutters and a hydraulic jack 3 days before my brakes were cut. His explanation? He was fixing his own car. But his car's brake lines were fine. Untouched. Then they found the burner phone. Hidden in Kyle's garage behind a toolbox. It had exactly 4 calls on it. 2 to Vanessa's number. 2 to a blocked number they were still tracing. The calls happened the week before the sabotage. When Detective Ortiz showed me the phone records, I felt sick. This was planned, she said. Your brother didn't just snap one night. He and your ex-wife coordinated this. Vanessa was brought back in for questioning. This time with a lawyer. She denied everything. Said the texts were taken out of context. Said she barely talked to Kyle and had no idea he'd bought any tools or owned a burner phone. Her lawyer was good. Smooth. He pointed out that Vanessa stood to gain nothing from my death since we were divorced and the inheritance happened after our separation. My client may have made some poor word choices in private conversations, but that's not a crime. Show me proof she was involved in the actual sabotage. They couldn't. Not yet. Vanessa walked out of the police station that afternoon a free woman. I watched from my car across the street as she climbed into her SUV. She looked right at me before she drove off. Her face was blank. Empty. Like she didn't even know me anymore. Like I was already dead in her mind. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the person in the security footage. The way they moved. The confidence. And then it hit me. Something Detective Ortiz had mentioned earlier. The cuts were professional. Whoever did this had training. Kyle worked in insurance. He couldn't cut brake lines to save his life. But I knew someone who could. Greg. My former business partner. We'd split our original shop 3 years ago after a huge fight about money. He'd accused me of cooking the books. I'd accused him of stealing from clients. We'd dissolved the partnership and gone our separate ways. But Greg was a certified mechanic. He'd know exactly how to sabotage a car. And I'd heard through the grapevine that his new shop was failing. That he was desperate for cash. What if Kyle had hired him? I called Detective Ortiz at midnight. There's someone else you need to look at. I told her about Greg. About our history. About his skills. She was quiet for a long moment. Darren, how many enemies do you have? Her voice was gentle but the question cut deep. I don't know anymore, I whispered. I really don't know. She sighed. We'll check him out. Get some sleep. And Darren? Don't go anywhere alone. If there's a third person involved, you're still in danger. I hung up and sat in the dark of my living room. Emma was at Vanessa's house this week. I was alone. The inheritance money sat in my bank account, untouched now. Poison. That's what it had become. It had turned my brother into a killer. It had made my ex-wife conspire against me. It had maybe pulled Greg back into my life as a hired hitman. And as I sat there, my phone buzzed one more time. Unknown number. The text made my blood run cold. You should have died on that highway. Next time you won't get a warning. Detective Ortiz traced the threatening text to another burner phone. Dead end. Whoever was behind this knew how to cover their tracks. But she did find something else. Greg's bank account showed a deposit of $5,000 2 days before my brakes were cut. Cash deposit. No name attached. Could be from anyone, her partner said. Could be his paycheck. But Greg's shop had been bleeding money for months. Where would he suddenly get $5,000 in cash? They brought Greg in for questioning on a Monday. I watched through the two-way mirror as he sat in that interrogation room. He looked older than I remembered. Grayer. Worn down. Detective Ortiz laid out the evidence. The deposit. His mechanical skills. His connection to me. Greg just shook his head. I didn't touch Darren's car. Yeah, we had problems years ago, but I moved on. I got my own life. She pushed harder. Then where'd the $5,000 come from? Greg's jaw tightened. That's my business. His lawyer interrupted. Unless you have physical evidence tying my client to the crime scene, we're done here. They had to let him go. No prints on my car. No DNA. The security footage didn't match his build. Greg was taller, broader. The person in the video was smaller. Detective Ortiz was frustrated. Someone's playing us. Kyle's the obvious suspect, but I don't think he did the actual work. Vanessa had motive but an alibi. Greg had skills but doesn't match the footage. She looked at me hard. Darren, is there anyone else? Anyone at all who'd want you gone? I racked my brain. Employees I'd fired? No one recent. Old customers with grudges? Nobody that angry. Then I remembered something Uncle Raymond had told me a year before he died. Your Aunt Donna called me again. Still thinks she deserves part of my estate. I told her to leave me alone. Donna. My dad's sister. I'd almost forgotten about her. She'd been cut off from the family 20 years ago after stealing from my grandmother. Uncle Raymond had despised her. Detective, there's someone else. My aunt. Donna lived in Mesa with her boyfriend, a guy named Rick who had a criminal record. Assault. Theft. Drug possession. Detective Ortiz pulled her file. Your aunt filed a lawsuit against Raymond's estate 2 months after he died. Claimed he promised her money before he passed. The judge threw it out. I felt my chest tighten. I didn't even know about that. Detective Ortiz nodded slowly. The lawsuit was dismissed 3 weeks before your brake lines were cut. Right around the time Kyle started his computer searches. They brought Donna in the next day. She showed up in ripped jeans and a stained jacket, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Rick came with her but waited outside. Donna sat across from Detective Ortiz with her arms crossed. I got nothing to say about Darren or Raymond. That old man was a selfish liar and Darren's just like him. Detective Ortiz stayed calm. Where were you the night of September 14th? Donna shrugged. Home. With Rick. We don't go out much. No alibi that could be verified. Then Detective Ortiz showed her a photo. The security footage image of the person by my car. This look like anyone you know? Donna barely glanced at it. Could be anybody. But I saw something flash in her eyes. Recognition maybe. Fear. Detective Ortiz saw it too. Donna, if you're protecting someone, now's the time to come clean. Attempted murder is serious. Conspiracy is just as bad. Donna stood up. I want a lawyer. I'm done talking. After she left, Detective Ortiz pulled up Rick's record again. Look at this. Rick worked as a mechanic 10 years ago before he got arrested. He'd know how to cut brake lines. My stomach dropped. So Kyle or Vanessa could have hired Rick through Donna? Detective Ortiz nodded. Or Donna did it herself and Rick helped. Either way, we need to connect the money. If we can prove Kyle or Vanessa paid Donna or Rick, we've got our conspiracy. She looked at me with something like pity. Your whole family's tearing itself apart over this inheritance. You know that, right? The truth came out 3 days later and it was worse than I imagined. Detective Ortiz got a warrant for Kyle's bank records going back 6 months. She found it. A withdrawal of $5,000 in cash the same day Greg received his deposit. But there was more. Another withdrawal 2 weeks earlier. $7,000. Also cash. Kyle had taken out $12,000 total. Detective Ortiz brought Kyle back in and this time he broke. I didn't want to kill him, Kyle said, his voice shaking. He looked small sitting in that chair. Broken. I just wanted to scare him. I wanted him to understand what it felt like to lose everything. Detective Ortiz leaned forward. So what did you do with the money, Kyle? He was crying now. Full tears streaming down his face. I gave 5 to Greg. I told him I needed information on Darren's car. Where he parked, what his schedule was like. Greg didn't know what I was planning. He just thought I wanted to keep tabs on my brother. And the other 7,000? Kyle looked down at his hands. I gave it to Rick, Donna's boyfriend. Vanessa told me about him. She said he'd do anything for cash and wouldn't ask questions. My heart stopped. Vanessa had connected them. She'd been involved all along. Kyle continued, Rick's the one who cut the brakes. I drove him to the shop that night. I waited in the car while he did it. It took less than 5 minutes. Then we left. Detective Ortiz's voice was ice. So you hired someone to murder your brother over money you were never entitled to? Kyle looked up at her with red eyes. He stole my inheritance. Uncle Raymond was my uncle too. I deserved half at least. Darren manipulated him. Turned him against me. I lost my mind, okay? Lauren was threatening to leave me. The bills were crushing us. I saw Darren getting richer while I was drowning and I just snapped. They arrested Rick that afternoon. Found him at Donna's place trying to pack a bag. He didn't even resist. Just put his hands up and said, "I knew this was coming." At the station, Rick confirmed everything. Kyle had hired him through Donna. Offered $7,000 to disable my car. He said he just wanted to scare his brother. Make him crash but not die. I didn't ask questions. I needed the money. Detective Ortiz asked him, "Did you know you were committing attempted murder?" Rick shrugged. I figured. But $7,000 is $7,000. Then came the hardest part. They brought Vanessa in with proof this time. Text messages between her and Kyle that they'd recovered from a third phone neither of them had disclosed. Messages that laid out the plan step by step. Vanessa suggesting Rick's name. Vanessa telling Kyle where I parked and what time I usually got home. Vanessa saying, "Make sure it looks like an accident. No one can trace it back to us." She'd been the architect. Kyle had been the desperate fool who followed her lead. I sat in Detective Ortiz's office listening to all this and felt nothing. Empty. Hollow. These people had been my family. Vanessa had been the woman I'd promised to love forever. Kyle had been the brother I'd protected my whole life. And they'd conspired together to kill me over money that wasn't even theirs. Why? I finally asked Detective Ortiz. Why would Vanessa do this? She didn't need the money. She has a good job. Detective Ortiz pulled out another document. Financial records for Vanessa. She's drowning in credit card debt. Over $80,000. Shopping addiction, the therapist notes say. She maxed out every card trying to keep up appearances after the divorce. When she heard about your inheritance, she saw a way out. If you died and Emma was a minor, she'd control whatever you left to your daughter. She could have borrowed against it. Used it to pay off her debts. I felt sick. So she was willing to let Emma grow up without a father just to clear her credit cards? Detective Ortiz nodded. People do terrible things when they're desperate. Your brother, your ex-wife, your aunt, Rick, they all made choices. Evil choices. But they were still choices. She paused. The good news is we have them all. Kyle's confessed. Rick's confessed. Vanessa's fighting it, but the evidence is overwhelming. Donna's being charged as an accessory. They're all going away for a long time. I should have felt relief. Victory. But all I felt was grief. My family had destroyed itself. And for what? Money I would have shared if anyone had just asked. The trial took 4 months to start. Kyle pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit murder and got 15 years. His lawyer argued for leniency because he'd cooperated, but the judge wasn't having it. You hired someone to kill your own brother. There is no excuse for that. Kyle looked at me once during sentencing. Mouthed the words, "I'm sorry." I looked away. Sorry didn't bring back the brother I thought I knew. Sorry didn't erase the fact that he'd watched me drive away that morning hoping I'd die. Rick got 20 years. No parole possibility. He'd taken the money knowing exactly what he was doing. The judge called him a mercenary willing to kill for pocket change. Rick didn't react. Just stared straight ahead like he'd already accepted his fate. Donna got 8 years as an accessory. She'd facilitated the connection, provided her home as a meeting place, and helped Rick avoid detection afterward. In court she screamed at me. "This is your fault. You took everything from Raymond and now you're taking my life." Security had to remove her. Vanessa's trial was the hardest. She pleaded not guilty. Claimed she'd never meant for me to actually die. Said her texts with Kyle were just frustrated venting and had been misinterpreted. Her lawyer painted her as a struggling single mother who'd made some poor comments but never actually participated in any crime. But the prosecution had the receipts. They showed how she'd researched break line sabotage on her work computer. How she'd deleted the searches but IT had recovered them. How she'd withdrawn $3,000 in cash the week before the incident and refused to explain where it went. The theory was she'd paid Donna separately to ensure the job got done. Donna wouldn't confirm it, but the timeline matched. Emma sat in the gallery during some of the trial. She was only 7 but old enough to understand her mother might go to prison. Old enough to know her mom had tried to have her dad killed. I tried to shield her from the details, but she heard things at school. Kids talking. Parents whispering. Our lives became a public spectacle. After 3 weeks, the jury found Vanessa guilty on all counts. Conspiracy to commit murder. Solicitation of murder. Fraud. The judge gave her 18 years. She collapsed when they read the sentence. Her lawyer caught her. As they led her away in handcuffs, she looked at Emma and cried, "Baby, I'm sorry. Mommy made a mistake." Emma just held my hand tighter. She didn't cry, didn't wave. My daughter had lost her mother but gained a terrible lesson about trust and betrayal. Greg was cleared of all charges. Turns out the $5,000 deposit was from a legitimate customer who'd paid cash for major repairs. Greg had just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. He called me after everything settled. "I heard about Kyle and Vanessa. I'm sorry, man. That's heavy." I didn't know what to say. "Yeah." There was a long pause. "Look, I know we ended badly years ago. I said things, you said things. But for what it's worth, I'm glad you're alive." I believed him. "Thanks, Greg." We hung up. Maybe someday we'd rebuild that bridge. But not yet. The inheritance sat in my account throughout the trial. I couldn't touch it. Couldn't look at it without seeing Kyle's face. Vanessa's schemes. Uncle Raymond probably thought he was doing something good when he left me that money. Rewarding loyalty. Instead, he'd planted a bomb in my family that destroyed everything. I thought about giving it all away. Donating it. But then I looked at Emma and realized she'd lost enough. This money would secure her future even if it had cost us our past. 6 months after the sentencing, I sold Uncle Raymond's house. Couldn't keep it. Too many memories of him, too much blood money attached to it. I put the proceeds in a trust for Emma that she couldn't access until she turned 25. The rest of the inheritance went into investments in her college fund. I kept enough to pay off my shop and buy a modest house in a different part of town. Fresh start. New neighborhood where people didn't know my story. Emma started therapy. Twice a week sessions with a child psychologist who specialized in trauma. She drew pictures of our family. In every single one, Vanessa was missing. Just empty space where her mom should have been. The therapist said it was Emma's way of processing abandonment. She's erasing her mother before her mother can hurt her again. I asked if that was healthy. The therapist shrugged. "It's survival. We'll work through it." Emma started having nightmares. Dreams where I'd get in the car and disappear. She'd wake up screaming, checking to make sure I was still home. I got letters from Kyle in prison. One every few weeks. Long rambling apologies about how he'd lost himself, how desperation had turned him into someone he didn't recognize. He talked about the therapy programs in prison, how he was working on himself. He asked about Emma. Asked if I'd ever forgive him. I didn't write back. Couldn't. Maybe someday I'd have the strength to face him again, but not now. Not when I still jumped every time someone walked behind my car in a parking lot. Vanessa wrote too, but not to me. She wrote to Emma. Letters that the court-appointed guardian reviewed first to make sure they weren't manipulative. Most got rejected. Too much, "Mommy didn't do anything wrong," and "Daddy doesn't understand." The few that made it through were basic. "I love you. I miss you. Be good in school." Emma read them once and put them in a box under her bed. Never mentioned them. When I asked if she wanted to write back, she just shook her head. "Mommy made a choice," she said. 7 years old and already wise beyond her years. Detective Ortiz checked on me every month or so, making sure no one else crawled out of the woodwork looking for revenge or money. "You holding up okay?" she'd ask. I'd say yes even when it was a lie. Truth was I didn't sleep much. Kept seeing that security footage in my head. The hooded figure crouched by my car. Knowing it was Rick but also knowing it could have been anyone. That's what the whole thing taught me. Anyone can become a killer if the price is right. Anyone can betray you if they want something bad enough. Then one afternoon, Lauren showed up at my shop. Kyle's wife. I hadn't seen her since the arrest. She looked thin. Tired. "I'm not here to defend him," she said immediately. "What Kyle did was unforgivable. I testified against him. I'm divorcing him." I nodded. Didn't know what to say. She continued, "But I wanted you to know that my kids ask about you. About Emma. They miss their uncle and their cousin. I know you probably want nothing to do with us and I understand. But they're innocent in this. They lost their dad because he made a horrible choice. I thought about it for a long time. Those kids were Emma's cousins. Family. But family had tried to kill me. Where did I draw the line?" "I need time," I finally said. Lauren nodded. "I get it. Just know the door's open if you ever change your mind." She left and I stood in my shop bay surrounded by cars and tools, thinking about how Uncle Raymond's kindness had turned into a curse. How money had revealed the monsters hiding in people I loved. And how somehow, despite everything, I had to find a way to keep living. It's been a year now since Mike sent me that text. A year since I pressed the brake pedal and felt nothing. A year since I learned what the people closest to me were capable of. Emma's doing better. Still in therapy but smiling more. She joined soccer and made friends who don't know our story. I coach her team on weekends. We live a quiet life now. Simple. Careful. I reached out to Lauren 2 months ago. Let the kids come over for a barbecue with Emma. They were nervous at first, unsure if I hated them by association. But kids are resilient. Within an hour they were playing in the backyard like nothing had ever happened. Emma laughed harder that day than she had in months. I realized then that cutting off Kyle's kids would just create more victims. More casualties of his choices. They didn't deserve that. I think about Uncle Raymond a lot. Wonder if he knew what his decision would cost me. Probably not. He was just a lonely old man trying to reward the nephew who'd shown up. He couldn't have predicted that his kindness would make me a target. That it would expose the rot in my family tree. But here's what I've learned. Money doesn't change people. It reveals them. Kyle was always resentful. Vanessa was always selfish. Donna was always bitter. The inheritance just gave them permission to act on what was already inside them. I visit Mike at his shop sometimes. He saved my life that day. If he hadn't been thorough during the oil change, if he hadn't noticed those cut lines, I'd be dead. We don't talk about it much. Just a nod between us. An understanding. He checks my brakes every time I come in now, even when I'm just there for an air filter. Can't be too careful, he says. I don't argue. Detective Ortiz retired last month. Called me before she left the force. You were one of my last cases. I'm glad we got them all. I'm glad you survived. I thanked her for everything. She'd been thorough when she could have been lazy. She'd believed me when the evidence was thin. Do me a favor, she said. Don't let this destroy you. Don't let their evil poison the rest of your life. I promised I'd try. So here's what I want you to take away from my story. Life will test you in ways you can't imagine. People you trust will disappoint you. Money will show you sides of humanity you wish you'd never seen. But you get to choose how you respond. I could have become bitter like Donna. Resentful like Kyle. Manipulative like Vanessa. Instead, I chose to protect what matters. Emma. My sanity. My ability to still see good in the world even after staring into that darkness. The inheritance is still there. Growing quietly in accounts I barely check. Emma will get it someday when she's old enough to understand its weight. I'll teach her what it cost. What it revealed. And I'll teach her that money is just money. It's not worth your soul. It's not worth your family. It's definitely not worth killing for. She'll take that lesson into her life, and maybe, just maybe, Uncle Raymond's gift will finally become what he intended. A blessing instead of a curse. Before I go, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me what you would have done in my situation. Would you have forgiven Kyle? Would you have shared the inheritance from the start? Have you ever had money tear your family apart? I read every comment. Your stories help me make sense of mine. And if this story moved you at all, hit that like button one more time and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because we all need reminders that survival is possible. That you can stare death in the face and still choose life. I still drive past that exit sometimes. The one where I almost crashed. Where I almost died. And every time I do, I remember that second chance. That text message from Mike that saved everything. Life gave me a warning. Most people don't get that. So I'm living like I mean it now. No wasted days. No fake relationships. No room for people who see me as a dollar sign instead of a human being. That's my lesson. That's what cutting my brakes taught me. You find out who really loves you when there's something to gain from your death. And you find out who you really are when you survive anyway.